Hello, everyone. Hopefully, you're having a blessed day today. I'm going to continue to go through my velocity banking journey, in which I call it frugal velocity banking. I grew up in public housing, so I was frugal before I came across the velocity banking aspect of it. At this present time, I'm doing velocity banking, and I'm doing it with 0% credit cards and one credit card that's charging 18% interest. So I really wanted to share my real world experience. I am a political economist. I am not a investor. Also, I'm not a certified planner, nor am I an attorney. So these are just my real world experiences and how I'm using velocity banking. And my concept of velocity banking is that I used to take my income, dump it into a bank, then pay off my bills, and then whatever remains sits in the bank. Now that I do velocity banking, I dump my paychecks onto a debt tool, which can be a credit card or a home equity line of credit, whichever debt that I'm carrying, and then I let that income sit onto the card. I'm in Northern California, so every 2 weeks from my W-2 employment job, I was receiving $1,845.13 every 2 weeks. I just recently looked at my paycheck, and it is now bumped up to $1,845.38 every 2 weeks. Now, one of the key things that I believe in velocity banking for me is being disciplined. And that discipline includes having a budget and seeing where the money goes. I think that is key and important, but you don't necessarily have to start off with a budget. But I have a budget that I eventually created electronically, and I try to keep track of my expenses. All right, so let's get started in the video today. So going back to one of the 0% cards that I'm using and rotating to pay off debt was the Wells Fargo Reflect card. When I first got the card 9/1/25, I had a limit of $7,500. It was 0% for 21 months, and it ends 7/15/2027. It had a cash advance limit of $1,500, and when I use it, that limit would be 28.99, I think. So I get to some point of using the cash advance and rotating, because I used the cash advance before also to pay down some debt. All right, so now I've used that credit card twice to go ahead and pay off some debt. So the first time I transferred $7,025 onto the card. That was about a 5% fee, and that was $351.25, and $123.75 were left for available credit. So again, that was just one credit card that I used. Now I am on my second round of balance transfer with the Reflect card, but this time Wells Fargo sent me 3 SuperChecks as a promotional offer. And I talked about SuperChecks in my other videos. SuperChecks were paper checks that I can either write to myself or write to a lender or whoever I owe, and it to pull money from the card onto the debt. What I did was write myself a check. Well, I wrote myself a check for $7,000 on the 8th. Then I deposited into my account, and on the 9th, $7,000 was there. Then I moved that $7,000 over 2 days because I was limited by Zelle to pay on my HELOC. Okay, so here we have the second balance transfer. As I mentioned, I wrote myself a super check for $7,000 on 8/8. The balance transfer fee for that was 5% or $350. They maintained $150 on the card. So when I did a balance transfer, on this particular card, I had to keep a certain amount on there, and that certain amount for them has been about 123 and 150. So I used one of 3 SuperChecks. So I still have 2 SuperChecks left, but I have until 8/31 to use them, and they have to clear the bank. So I may just write myself another amount just to go ahead and get it cleared, but I still have 2 of 3 SuperChecks that I can use. Again, I'm in Northern California, and my income every 2 weeks now has gone up to $1845.38. That's covering my housing, my expenses, my daily living, my credit cards, and whatever is left as cash flow will sit on this card until it's paid off. And I'll talk about how I'm using other credit cards in another video. But again, I am using 0% credit cards to do velocity banking. So I'm not paying any interest, but I am paying fees to transfer. And so far I've transferred $14,000 in debt over to the credit card, and I've been able to pay off this $7,000, and I have this $7,000 to go. All right, thank you very much. See you in the next video. Have a great day. Bye-bye.